itself has that. And matcha, in matcha, that's actually raised to the extreme level. So it's very sweet and very rich, and sometimes you can even feel the body instead of just really thin water-like texture to it. So today I'm hoping that you can experience that. In tea ceremony, Rikyu, Sen Rikyu, is considered to be the father of tea ceremony. He lived around the time like 14th century, 15th century, right before Edo period, when Japan closed the country, didn't trade much, and then developed its own culture. Right before then, Rikyu left, and by then the tea ceremony was getting a little bit too extravagant affair, like a party kind of thing, and Rikyu didn't like it. So he developed something called wabi cha. Maybe you know the term wabi-sabi. So that's the tea, meaning served in a hot, simple tea. So he turned away from all the extravaganza part of tea into simple thing, or a broken thing even. Or if the flower falls off, fine, that's the natural beauty. Leave it that way. Or you don't have to have a lot of painted things or a fine material made thing. You can use the pottery that you use every day. So that's what's probably you know as tea ceremony, rustic ones, and bizen, the really rough-shaped tea wares liked in this kind of tea. And he stressed that the spiritual exchange between the host and the guest is the height, the purpose of the tea ceremony. And they give tea ceremony for seasonal purposes, some kind of a seasonal celebration. Like today, it's a cherry blossom blooming, so we have tea. Or your friends visiting from out of town, you have tea. Somebody's going to the war right before that, farewell party, you have tea. And you can have tea with only one person, 1-to-1, or 2 people, 3 people. Not as many as 8 or 10. That would be a little bit too much because too many, because it's a little bit more intimate, quiet thing. And also the concept of ichigo ichie, it means this one time, one only meeting. With this crowd, with these tools, in this setting, with this flower and scroll, this happens only one time in your lifetime or in the history. You will never repeat the same tea. So you live here and now, that you probably hear a lot. That's the concept. So you enjoy your company. You are creating this tea as well. You participate, being there and making some comments or enjoying the tea, watching. That's the point of tea. And you can have tea anytime you like. And the real tea ceremony starts from people come in, you have a water-like thing, and then we do make charcoal and fire actually. And then you have food, sweet. You go out once by the pond in the garden, come back in and have thick tea, koicha it's called. That's the very ceremonial tea I'm going to be performing with Margot today. That tea used to be medicinal, so that the spiritual tea is more like paste instead of tea, as you know. And we'll show you probably when we make that cup. But that tea, 1 cup is shared by all the guests. So that's how we share and become one family. And then after that, we fix the fire again. there's ceremonial ritual again. And then, since it's too sad to just separate right after one ceremonial tea, we make thin tea called usucha. That's what you usually know as matcha tea. And sometimes it's very thin, but we make it very foamy. So I usually explain to non-tea people that it's almost like a cappuccino without milk. And that's the tea you're going to be having today. And as you walked in, I asked you to wash your hands. The reason is, in the tea house, you dust off all of everyday life, any worries, concerns, or even joys that's overexciting. You leave everything behind and then come to tea house. In old days, like Nobunaga period, they are asked to take off the sword and then leave it right outside of the tea house. There's a rack for swords, and everybody is friend, everybody's equal. There's no class or ranks or professions or genders or age. We are all the same. That's why we practice manners, how to do things. Because if everybody does exactly the same way, you have no differences. But what happens is, when you get to that point, you practice so many times, and then you can do it with your eyes closed. If you get to that point, something happens, and you can really be here and now and enjoy each other's light inside of you. That's the point we want to get to, but it's a lot of practice and discipline. But I learned that from a Zen priest. I used to go to a grad school Zen monks owned, and one of the friends' brother was, they were from Zen temple family. And he was a musician. He didn't want to be a